This story starts out with a little boy named Tookie. He was 9 years old, and he was small even for his age. He lived in a housing project they nicknamed the Bricks. He stayed there with his mother, older sister, and now the convict boyfriend of his mother named Juan. Juan had just got out from serving a 10-year bit for second-degree murder. Tookie hated his mother's boyfriend because he treated his mother like trash. Not to mention, let's just say, he had been inappropriate with Tookie's 13-year-old sister. But his mom was cool with it, as long as he supplied her with perks, mollies, green, and whatever. He could do no wrong. Juan yelled at Tookie for everything. Tookie had to walk on eggshells whenever at home. But you gotta understand, Juan was respected in the hood he grew up in. He was a murderer, known to put in work. But what few knew was that Juan was turned out in jail. And he used to touch Tookie at night. Tookie was too small to defend himself, so Tookie started spending more and more time away from home. He ran into a group around his age of boys. They called themselves the Bang Out Boys. They were young stick-up kids. They came from similar households as Tookie. One of the boys, his name was Spanky. He was their leader. He was only 11 years old, and he had already committed his first homicide. He shot a man in a carjacking when he was only 10. And since he was a juvenile, he was placed in a detention center for 6 months, then placed in foster care, where he ran away and began living on the streets. He ran with a crew of young boys that did whatever they could to get by. This included robbery, begging, and even murder. Yeah, you heard me right. I said murder. These young kids were doing hits for the local drug dealers and getting petty cash for their deeds. They were the go-to men for the local drug dealers who wanted to make a statement or get rid of their rivals. You see, these young boys weren't on anyone's radar. The police didn't know them, and to most people who saw them, they were just some punk kids with no parental guidance. But in reality, they were responsible for half of the unsolved murders in the city. When Tookie met Spanky, they clicked. Tookie talked about power and how they could take over and control the city. You see, Spanky was a killer, but he lacked vision, and that's what Tookie had. Tookie seen that the drug dealers in charge were soft, and they were using Spanky and the Bang Out Boys to assert dominance. Tookie was small but smart and strategic. He learned to play chess at the young age of 4, and he played with his older sister when they were younger. He talked to Spanky about how they were underpaid, and instead of doing hits for pennies, they should organize, because that way they could make some real money. There was this high roller named Rick. He was flamboyant, and he drove a Mercedes Benz, and he always had a cutie riding next to him. He owned 3 corner stores in the neighborhood that he used as a front to wholesale weight to the smaller drug dealers all around town. And the boys knew all about it. You see, Spanky had done some work for him in the past. So because of this, Tookie thought Spanky should be the one to approach him about this new tax the Bang Out Boys were placing on all the major dealers in the area. At first, Rick took their demands as a joke and even threatened Spanky, saying he would get Spanky, Tookie, and the rest of the Bang Out Boys and have them thrown off a bridge. And he even pulled a gun out and pointed it at Spanky and demanded he leave. You see, Rick couldn't believe these little kids had the nerve to demand he pay them a percentage of what he made. So Rick told his right-hand man, Benny, to teach Spanky a lesson. You see, Benny was a grown-ass man and much larger than Spanky. So Benny walked up to Spanky and slapped him so hard that he knocked out Spanky's front tooth and bloodied his nose. Spanky fell to the floor and then got up and ran out the room. And Rick and Benny, they just laughed and told him if they saw him again, they would kill him. There were even women in the room, and they laughed and said, poor baby. You see, Tookie expected this scenario. So he told Spanky this was his test. A test to see if he would do what it was necessary to be his second in command, or his lieutenant, the muscle. Spanky immediately grabbed a couple of his underlings that were even younger than him. One was only 10 years old and the other 11. You see, they had humiliated Spanky, so much so that he couldn't even look his comrades in the eyes. He even felt that if he didn't act harshly and quickly, that his comrades wouldn't respect him or take orders from him. So Spanky and his guys stalked out Benny's house for a week until they learned Benny's routine, and then broke in. They broke in when Benny wasn't home, but his house wasn't empty. When they broke in, Benny's wife and 2 young daughters were inside. Spanky and 2 other boys surprised them at gunpoint, then tied them up and waited for Benny to come home. Later that night, Benny showed up intoxicated and off guard. When he unlocked the door and walked in, the first thing he saw was the barrel of Spanky's shotgun pointed directly at his face. Then he noticed his wife and his two little girls tied up and gagged in the living room with tears running down their faces. Spanky said, "Bring your ass in here before I smoke your ass right here, right now, in front of these bitches." Benny walked in slowly and humiliated, with his hands even trembling. Spanky told Little Dude to tie him up. Now the reason they called this guy Little Dude is because he would do anything Spanky told him to do. Then Spanky asked Benny where was the phone book he saw him with earlier. Benny told him it was in his back pocket and he would give it to him. And he would give him everything if he would just let them go. In this phone book was a list of the city's biggest dealers, their stash spots, and also Ricky's plug. For those who don't understand who Ricky's plug is, the plug is Ricky's supplier. The people whom Ricky bought his drugs from. Since Spanky got the phone book, some would say he should just let Benny and the family go. But nah, Spanky remembered what Tookie had said to him about this being his chance to prove himself as an enforcer or the second in command. So Spanky felt the need to make a statement. While Benny was tied up, they forced him to watch Spanky and the other two boys violate his wife and his two young daughters. Then when they were done, they set the house on fire, where Benny, his wife, and his two daughters perished. Later on that week, the two women who watched Spanky get slapped and even laughed along with Ricky, their bodies washed up on the riverbank on the other side of town. At this point, Ricky was terrified and looking around every corner, fearing that he would be next. When out of nowhere, he was contacted by Tookie. Tookie told him that he worked for the Bang Out Boys now, and he would even be allowed to continue to earn money under the umbrella of the Bang Out Boys. And now he was to report to Spanky, a person whom he was terrified of. And of course, Ricky agreed. And through this connection, Tookie, Spanky, and the Bang Out Boys became very prosperous. This was only the beginning. The rise of Tookie, Spanky, and the Bang Out Boys.